Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. So let's talk about the E. Jean Carroll trial. I mean, good Lord. So Alina Habba, who was beside Trump wearing a mask, tells the court she has a fever. So it's obviously delayed now till Wednesday. So you've got Trump whining when it was his side, right, that asked for the delay. They were offered the option, right, to go ahead, right, because one of the jurors was also sick with COVID, it looks like.
Well, I'm not sure that the juror has COVID.
Oh,
at least
was sick. Okay.
The juror called in sick and was told to take a COVID test, and I believe, at least initially, tested negative.
Okay.
And we don't know that Habba has COVID, because if she does, she acted.
Oh, there you go.
You are.
Okay, we lost you, Jill. Go ahead. Say again.
Okay, where did I cut out?
Beginning of the sentence.
The very beginning. About what's happening with the E. Jean Carroll trial, and yeah.
Okay, so what I said, just to summarize, was number one, the juror called in sick and was told not to come in and to test for COVID. As best I understand it, the juror tested negative. But then E. Jean Carroll's lawyer said, well, we can proceed with 8 jurors. We only need 6 for a civil trial, and we had 9, so let's go ahead. And then, of course, Habba said no, which is probably because today is the New Hampshire primary, having nothing to do with health, because she also said that she wasn't feeling well. But she was sitting next to Donald Trump, a man of an age where COVID is a serious risk, and she and he were whispering into each other's ears, which bring the risk of transmission higher than they would have been otherwise. So she was placing him at risk by being there if indeed she felt ill. But in any event, they're complaining about the delay, except that they're the ones who asked for it, not E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah. So now, obviously, Trump blasted out a series of demeaning posts about E. Jean Carroll. I think I lost count, Jill. He posted dozens of screenshots of Carroll tweeting about sex-related topics or jokes, along with right-wing blog posts questioning her motives, character, and sanity. I mean, is this not just running up the bill? Am I missing something? This is insane. That only the judge decides, right? And so he...
Right. First of all, you never miss anything, so we can put that aside for sure.
Thank you, Jill.
But yeah, he over 40 times mentioned her name in a negative frame that only will raise the damages that the jury assesses, because he keeps on doing it. And when they are asked to award punitive damages, the question will be, how much money will it take to stop him? And he's just showing that nothing has stopped him so far. $5 million certainly didn't. And the $12 million that's requested was for compensatory damages, to make her whole, to allow her to hire people to improve her reputation online as a result of his harmful statements. Anything else would be to make him stop it so that he doesn't do it again. So it's ridiculous, and the jury is going to hear about all that in closing arguments, and maybe even in evidence in the trial. So I think he's only doing himself damage, as he did when he testified in depositions at the fraud trial, that he's actually a billionaire and that he has more money than anybody knows. Because in order to hurt someone, if you take an average middle income earner and you say $12 million, well, of course, that's beyond their reach and would kill them.
Right.
But for someone who's a billionaire, $12 million is nothing. It won't hurt him.
That's hilarious. So they can use his testimony in the other trial about how rich he is. In this trial, correct?
Right, against him. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Also, so now, Jill, I'm maybe confused. There is a jury, but it's a bench trial. So it's only the judge ultimately, isn't it, that decides that, again, he's already been ruled guilty, right? This is just the amount of damages. Can you explain?
Well, yes. It is a jury trial on damages. The issue of liability was decided by the judge on legal motions. And part of this was also decided in the first trial, because when you have an issue that is litigated between the same parties, and here you had Donald Trump and E. Jean Carroll, and you had a jury who decided that he did sexually assault her, He did lie about her. He knew he was lying. He was guilty of defaming her, and therefore he was ordered to pay her $5 million in damages. So that was a jury verdict. This is similarly the same judge, a different jury of 9 people,
Right?
And which may be reduced to 8. We'll have to wait and see. But it is up to the jury to determine the amount of damages. The bench trial is in the fraud case, where Judge Engeron decided before the trial the liability, based again on the law was clear and there was no disputed facts. And then he heard evidence on a couple of additional, the major charge of fraud was decided, but there are some other charges.
So, Jill, Trump is supposed to testify when this resumes on Wednesday. I know one expert said this is Lewis Kaplan. He's been on the bench for 30-plus years, and boy, does he control his courtroom. He doesn't allow dramatics, any chaos. He will warn anybody out of line. We already found this last week with Trump. If necessary, he'll shut him down. If absolutely necessary, he will have a person removed from the courtroom. Because, they're saying the same thing. You can't make a political speech. Well, Trump can't help himself, can't control himself. So what's going to happen, do you think, with his testimony?
He probably won't testify.
Oh, he won't. Okay.
That's probably what will happen. He has no reason, and he has no excuse now because it's not today, and he was going to otherwise say, well, I have to be in New Hampshire, and so I couldn't testify today. Well, that's not going to be an excuse. I don't see any benefit to him from testifying. He is an uncontrolled and uncontrollable witness, and he will likely do himself severe harm if he testifies, and will be subject to expert cross-examination by Roberta Kaplan, who is an outstanding lawyer and is doing a very good job in this case, as she did in the earlier case and in other cases where she has been involved. So I think he's met his match in Roberta Kaplan and in Judge Kaplan, who is not related to Roberta Kaplan.
By the way, have you ever heard a lawyer like Alina Habba say, I would rather be pretty than smart because I can fake smart?
No, but even worse, I've never heard a lawyer say to the judge in the case that she is arguing, I don't like being talked to that way.
Not be spoken to.
In response to his saying, I've already ruled on that motion, sit down. So it's just astounding. And as is Donald Trump's behavior in that case as well. I mean, his muttering about this is a con job, just loud enough for the jury to hear. It's absurd. But really, I think the most absurd of all is Habba saying, don't talk to me that way. I don't like being addressed
She's
that way.
never even watched a courtroom show, but okay. Can I just take a shallow moment to say, you're pretty and smart. Okay. Let's... Finally,
both is better.
There's 2 headlines. Trump trial delays already mean almost impossible to sentence him before election, according to an expert. And then A.G. Garland, Trump election crimes trial needs to be speedy. I mean, I think we have always felt this tick-tock, haven't we? There is... One, expert says there's still time for trials, but he said even if found guilty, Trump will be a free man when the election comes. He said there's no real chance of Trump being in prison before November if he is found guilty. Right now, the J6 trial in Washington, D.C. is still set to begin March 5th, but pretrial hearings have been put on hold until Trump's appeal that he should be immune from prosecution. If that appeal is unsuccessful, there's still time for the trial to happen by November. What is all your take on all this, and when is this immunity ruling coming, Jill?
I would hope that it's coming very soon, and I would also hope that the 14th Amendment decision is coming very soon. Of course, courts set their own schedule, and so we don't know for sure. I can't swear when it'll come, but there is no reason for it to be delayed, and the faster it comes, even if all they do is to say, well, we're still deciding it, but we lift the stay, and you can go ahead with trial proceedings, because this is a domino. If the March 4th trial is delayed by more than a week or 2, it's going to run into other trial schedules. And once that happens, the whole thing falls, because right now there is enough time to handle trial 1, 2, 3, and it'll run out. There won't be time for all of them. before November if they don't get to it. Right now, the Georgia case is set for August, but that's based on the May trial date for Mar-a-Lago. And Judge Cannon seems to be really slow walking it deliberately. This is not an accident. And as a result, she could end up canceling the trial date for May in Florida, but not until late March or April. That means that if she did cancel it, Fani Willis could have asked for that trial date instead of waiting till August. But I don't know if it's canceled in May, that she can then go to trial much sooner than August anyway, because everybody has to have enough warning to be available for that. So it's really almost deliberate.
Of course.
Playing dominoes and kicking them all down.
Yep. By the way, just real quick before we go, you said tell your members of Congress you want cameras in the court for all the Trump trials. You talked about the Lockerbie plane crash. You said we're all victims of Trump's policies and crimes and deserve to see his trials. I think that's a great suggestion.
It's a big issue that everybody should be paying attention to.
Jill, so I was listening also to your discussion about this Fani Willis nonsense. You tweeted, may or may not be true, but even if true, it does not impact the evidence or guilt or their legal right to proceed with the case. They are on the same side. There's no conflict of interest. You said there's no evidence Willis or Wade has violated any law or ethics standard. There are judgment questions, but nothing alleged impacts the prosecution in Georgia. The law and the evidence justify it continuing. I mean, again, as you guys were saying, again, we don't even know, is this true? And secondly, I don't understand how it's anyone's business or how it impacts the case, as you sort of talked about. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what I said and that you summarized is really exactly how I feel about it. This has nothing to do with the case. It is embarrassing. And I would have to say, they now say that there are bank records that show he purchased tickets for them, which makes it seem like it's probably true. And so what? Who cares?
Thank you.
They are on the same side. They have nothing to do with the case, and there is no allegation that either of them has in any way faltered in their public responsibilities to see justice done and the law of Georgia enforced. So I just don't see the problem. It's really, it is a question of judgment. Voters can take that into account when they come to re-elect her. That's up to the voters. But in terms of a court and the judge and proceeding, this will be thrown out.
Yep, absolutely.